Team Man, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emmy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Hello. What's up? What's popping? What's living? What's growing? What's showing? What's happening? What's grooving? Yes. Welcome to Emmy TV, a growing podcast with solutions. All we do is share solutions, and today will be no different. We have in the building David Shelton. We will be talking about suicide. Before we really get off into there, I just got to give a shout out to my bro Harrison Shelby and my little sweetie India Jones, right? And when you talk about the fruits of your labor and the work, years ago, India remembers. It's just amazing how we go way back to when she was a child. And her and my daughter was going to school, and just seeing her today made my year. Not my day, it made my year. Seeing her happiness, the fact that she's pastoring and she's living a life that's golden and God-filled. And just seeing that was just amazing today. Was glad to be sitting at the table and in prayer and those types of things. When we talk about family restoration, we're talking about a number of solutions that need to come to the table, and not so much that it's talk, but it's work, right? And today the subject being about suicide is just ultimately important to have this discussion, because we're going to get to some solutions. My brother Dave just walked in the door, so I'm going to be talking David and David. I got David and David in the building, right? And just want to run through a couple of quick statistics, but just one. I'm going to do the one, Dave. I'm just going to do the one. 63%, because we love to talk racism, right? Racism this, racism that. It's the policies. We understand there's a lot of racism in policies, and a lot of people neglect the whole nine. But let's just getting into the whole process. 63% of all suicides, right? 63% of all suicides. We can make that a hook. 63% of all suicides come from fatherless homes. 63% of all suicides come from fatherless homes. So that statistic alone really should tell a father, a mother, a community, a city, some lawmakers, and everyone how important dads are to the contribution of their children. Unfortunately, sometimes dollars overrule life, and we have to push back. So with that being said, Dave, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great.
I'm glad you slid in here. You slid in here, boy, like, what's my man's name? The singer with the curly hair. Hey!
Oh, you talking Bruno?
Yeah, Bruno Mars. You slid in here like Bruno Mars, right? But our guest in the building today is David Shelton. David, how are you, David? David Shelton, can you hear me? Can you hear me, bro?
We can't hear him.
Check your mute, David. Check your mute, David. Can you hear it?
He can hear us, but we can't hear him. Go ahead.
Okay. So, getting into the conversation of suicide, I reached out and I wanted to get into this conversation because I think it's important that we continue to highlight what children are going through. And because of that, we need to understand how that works, right? Children are really going through this dynamic, and parents are as well. But just getting into suicide and suicide prevention. So the work that we've been doing, we've been preventing suicide for 36 years. It's the work that we've been doing. We brought it to the table. We put it in a nonprofit. We continue to do that work, not losing a young man at all to suicide. So excited about that. We still can't hear David?
No.
Okay. So, and in that process.
Hey, Dave, if you can, go out and come back in.
Yeah, exit out, David.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And so, what was alarming, again, to me was the 5 to 11s. That this society, we had come to a place to now suicide is in the hands of 5-year-olds. And that was very alarming to me, right? It really caught me off guard, actually.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Awesome.
Got me?
Yes, sir. You in the
Okay,
building.
sorry about that.
No, it's not you, brother. It's technicals everywhere when it comes to technology. Technical files, you know what I mean? So David, tell us a little bit about you as we are getting into this conversation.
Well, I have actually only been doing this work for about 4 years as it relates to suicide prevention. But in terms of community advocacy, working with youth, working with people, I'm associate minister at my church. Been in ministry for probably 25 years. And so the ministry in me is not just in church, but it's just a part of who I am. And ironically, it was even more interesting that I'm a police officer, is what my real job is.
Right.
But of course, that doesn't define me and things of that nature. I never thought that I would be working in law enforcement. However, working with criminal justice for like the last 15 years, I was a contractor. I worked with the Department of Justice, worked with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, working with men and women who came from prison. And then that led me to working as a police officer because the contract started running out, so I had to do that. So with as it relates to the suicide prevention, I was working with Dabo, where Forrest Sheffield is executive director there. He wanted to start an initiative called Project Rainbow about 3 or 4 years ago with suicide prevention, as it was, as you stated, is increasing in our community, especially among young African-American children from the ages of 5 to 11. We wanted to have an impact there. So we had some initiatives that we did a few years ago. And now we are conducting suicide prevention training for our community. And that could be for law enforcement people, for just the common individual. We have them on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We can do them in person or we can do them virtually. And that's through a national organization called QPR, which stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. And what we do is we give individuals the tools to convince somebody not to suicide until I can get them to a person that can help them, to look for signs, not to sweep some of these things under the rug. As you already know, I'm sure, working in this for 36 years, things like suicide amongst our community have been like taboo conversations. Even in church, we want to pray it away. The Bible declares that faith without works is dead. So along with our faith, we got to put some work in.
That's right.
So we've been really trying to help with this particular issue and concern. As the people of God are his most valuable resource, we want to make sure we put our best foot forward to get them the information that they need and let them understand that there is a hope and help and offer that person a direct link to that. So that's me, married 29 years, 3 children, 35, 27, 25, 10-year-old granddaughter. And that's me, pretty much.
Awesome, brother. So first of all, I want to say thank you, right? Thank you for your contribution to the community. Yes. Right, because it's important, and the fact that your example is such a beautiful example. When I reached out to your sister and she referred you, she was like, "Oh, my brother," right? And the truth be told, I don't know if you had a chance, but we put a billboard up right there by Dibo. So I don't know if you saw that billboard that we just recently had up for the month of June.
I haven't seen that one, but I saw it on your website. So I did saw it on your website.
Yeah, we put one up because that area 48204 was one of the highest areas.
Yes, sir.
Right,
yes,
and
sir.
so
Absolutely.
we put up a billboard, our Smash Suicide campaign, and we've made it very simple, right? Our boys need men involved with the work, with their lives, with their daily lives, in preventing suicide. Right, we've made it. We understand that there's some other medical situations that might come in hand, mental health issues that might come in hand. We have 2 doctors that we refer, but most of the work over these years has been around prevention before they can even get there, having access. We launched a capital campaign to build our own empowerment center, which will be able to help boys 3 to 24. That's the work. That's where we're standing. Is something that's strictly for boys, men, husbands, and fathers. Right? We have to. We deserve that as men. Right? We deserve more David Feltons and David Pattersons and Miles Dixons, and we deserve more than what we're producing across the board. So, what I want to get into is what are some of the steps, right? What are some of the solutions that you would recommend to a parent? What are the first things you would recommend to a parent dealing with a suicidal child?
Well, I think even before we.
Camera out.
Oh, I'm sorry. My back good.
Yeah.
So what we find when we talk about suicide prevention as it relates to youth, a lot of times we want to deal with symptoms and we don't want to necessarily deal with the root. And again, I appreciate your effort because I believe that the campaign that you have and your initiatives actually are dealing with the root of the issues. And a lot of times people want to have a cookie cutter approach toward resolution as it relates to youth, but everybody's situation is going to be different.
Yes, sir.
And I think having the concern be specific to that particular individual is the beginning. We have to be sensitive. We have to be discerning. We talk about it. And I think, too, and I'll say this, I had the pleasure of having a contract with DPS schools and having what we call parent universities. And a lot of parents want to say that they've been where their children are. And so they parent from the perspective or from the place that I know what you're doing. I've been there before. When in fact, that's not the case. And so I think it needs to start there, and 2, dealing with our own issues, making sure that our issues don't carry over to our children, meaning that the child has had a bad day at school, they may be bullied, they may have some things going on, they come home, they want to talk to their parent. But the parent is so overwhelmed with whatever they're going through, they tell them to go to their room.
Right.
So the difference is, when I'm 49, so the difference is when I was growing up, if I had an issue at school, when I came home, I was built back up again. There was a community there to embrace me and to say, David, it's going to be okay. This is how you handle this. This is how you handle that. Okay, now it's different. The child is being bullied at school. If they have access to social media, they're being bullied on social media. They come home, and this is not in every case. I'm just saying, they come home and the parent says, or parents say, go to your room. They go right back to their room. Where do they go? Right on social media.
Right on
where
social media.
Abuse and stuff still goes on. So it's a 24-hour hookup where we can come back home. We can get built up. We can go to church. We can go to after school programs. We can go up to the park. There were places that supported us. And so identifying what the problem is with this particular child and actually talking to them and listening to them and noticing if there are things that are different. Calvin, when I tell you it's heartbreaking to hear about children suiciding, and it's almost like it's a fad now. Children are actually making suicide pacts. Children are, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm glad that we can talk at it from not just the social or psychological, we can talk to it from the spiritual component too, where the devil has no regard of who you are. When you're going after children, that's a bad thing. And so we have to be strategic in our approach in terms of trying to find resolution for this and understand that there isn't a cookie cutter approach, nor is there a magic line for us to wave and make all these problems go away. But the bottom line is it has to be motivated by love. If I love my child, if I love my niece, if I love my nephew, if I love my community, that's going to allow me to say, listen, I need to put whatever issues I have or proclivities I have that are negative to the side so I can embrace this child and wrap some resources around them and get them the help that they want. Something that you said that was very, very important. They talk about the psychological portion of that might cause suicide. They talk about the mental. But more recently, there are studies that talk about the social disconnect from a particular culture or society that can cause a person to suicide, especially as it relates to African American youth.
Right.
The systemic stories of oppression, the way that we came over here, those things trickle down. A lot of folks think that it has nothing to do with it. But if I'm looking at a situation that I think is hopeless, that's the thing. You want to offer a person hope in order to get them to not suicide. If I can't offer a person hope, and all they see is despair and bleakness, then I mean, so I know I'm talking all over the place, but I think the subscriber has to be love. And from love comes the commitment to be disciplined, to say, listen, I need to make sure that I'm pouring into this child and make sure this child has the right resources around it and understand that, you know, I have to love each of my children differently because they require different things. And so, you know, long gone is the day when we tell our boys, look, man up, quit crying, quit acting like a girl, quit doing this, quit doing that. We need to talk to them and have a conversation with them, because not only does it help us prevent suicide, but then too, it deals with conflict resolution, Calvin. A lot of us can't deal with conflict resolution because we don't talk to our children. We want to bust them in the head or put them on punishment or do whatever. So they're going to repeat that same behavior.
Yes, sir.
So that's where I am with it. And you know, of course, there are more strategic and simplistic methods that I have in terms of what we look for, what to look for when a person is considering suicide. If a child is talking about, you know, I'm better off dead, don't just sweep that under the rug. Talk to that child. You know, their parents are telling their children, you know, quit saying you're going to do it then. The worst thing you can do is tell your child, you know, if you're going to do it, then do it. Come on now. So, right. So I hope that answers some of the questions.
No, it did, and we're gonna continue that. But hold that thought, Brother Dave. You want to add?
Well, again, thank you for the work you're doing, David. You said something that was essential when you talk about the systemic part of it, the connection to the family. And basically, we sometimes like to isolate the child from the family and the generations. But these things, as you know, generational curses can pass down. But also ignorance is passed down. And so, as I always often say, that no one can give you what they don't have. So you have parents that are limited because they start off on a limited foundation and they pass this information down. As you said, the earlier part of, they go upside the child's head or do it then. Well, what you're hearing is limitations, the ability or inability to articulate in an appropriate way so the child can understand that they're connected. The other thing that you pointed out was, we said in the Army always, isolation kill, community build. Well, in the earlier years, I'm a little more older than you guys, so in the earlier years, even if the father or the mother didn't have the quote-unquote parenting skills, they had a community that would help raise the child. So you still had the grandparents, you had the neighbors. The average individual don't even know their neighbor. So what you're looking at is there's no connection of a unity, if you will. So that isolation puts children in a position they have no one to turn to. You know, it used to be the time where an individual could go down to the neighbor and talk to their mother if they couldn't talk to their own mother, or talk to their father. Calvin talks about that all the time with his parents. See, that is now basically been disseminated. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not that type of connection. So these kids are left to their own devices. Bullying, you know, we talk like bullying. Bullying been going on since the beginning of the time. I don't think I've met anybody that hadn't been bullied in their life. But what we have now is a larger exposure to the opportunity to be a bully. So with the new social media, the computers, all these things, these kids are now so wanting to be connected, because there's a real quick fix. Don't turn the computer on. But because because people need to have a connection, as we already know that children that are born and don't have that love may potentially die. So children that don't have that connection, they find themselves going to reach out for it by any means necessary. So they'll get on the computer, and as you said, the bullying continues. This is a disservice to young people because, again, where is the people that give them support? Where is the mentors? Where is the family members that, okay, I'm going to go to my cousin's house, and my cousin will pump me up and give me that energy again. You said when you open up, when you came home, somebody rebuilds you if you were torn down. That's not there. So, and as Calvin always say, you need both parents, and that's a fact. Even if back in the old days, the father may not have necessarily been home because there was some traditional roles that were played out. Father go to work, mother at home. But it was always the classic line, wait till your daddy get home. So he had a part in this. Now we don't have these things. So all these things separating the system is breaking down, just like the body. If one part of the body is compromised, the rest of the body is compromised. So that's what we're seeing. So the work that you're doing to contribute to bringing back together, as we like to say, the problem is not the problem. So bringing back the family and trying to give the family members, the parents, the teachers, what have you, the police officer, the understanding where suicide really come from. Because basically, I always say people don't want to die. They want to get rid of the problem. So at the end of the day, if they can figure out a way to give a problem through all the initiatives that you take to help this, then that helps move that away. Because again, when you talk to kids, I was in the military, so we had a lot of military soldiers' families, right? And same thing, suicide. Pacts been going on for I know at least the last 20-something years, 25 years. It may sound a little new now, but it's really been going on. And it was building momentum because the family was starting to fall apart. The connection to the community was falling apart. So just like a game, you tap into somewhere where somebody gives you some kind of value. Even if it's very minimal or negative, it makes them feel value. So we have to teach that positive value so they can stray away from the ideal that they don't need me living because I got no value. Once a person feels they have value, they want to live.
Yes. So it comes back to value, and it comes back to, Dave, right? You're saying both of you guys are touching right in that sweet spot about exactly what is missing, right? And so we glorified, right? A lot of people don't want to, right? A lot of people don't want to say it. You glorified the single household. And when you glorify the single, these are many, many symptoms come with that, right? Because we did not value what fathers really brought to the table, right? And so once the governmental dad entered the picture, a lot of more issues begin to, just like you said, once the body is compromised. So once the family is compromised, here we go. We will give you solutions, but these solutions are going to come at a cost, right? And having the conversation and the debates about murder, having the conversation about the black on black, right, white on white, pink on pink, whatever the case may be, we're having these conversations, but at the expense of the children. And for a society that doesn't really value its men, and a society where the men doesn't really value its position. So when we're not respecting these, here comes these symptoms that highly affect, again, 63% of all suicides come from fatherless homes. I can't make that even more plain. 63%. That's the biggest amount, right? 63% of all suicides come from fatherless homes. So how important is that? Which we push that mantra continuously, David. But I do want you to touch on, Brother David Felton, I do want you to touch on some more of those solutions, because it's important that we continue to drive home. Here are some things, because I get inboxed all the time, right? We have a tendency to wait till the boy is in trouble. We wait till he's now saying he's suicidal. We wait till he's now performing bad, right? And we have a tendency to use that outlet, the excuse. I don't know about you, David, but in watching education, for some strange reason, our girls are having success educationally.
Well, that's across the board. I mean, if you look not just our girls, but as they move into womanhood, they're moving in a line of just continuation. If you even look at, no disregard to this disrespect, but if you look at an average car now, you see the woman driving the car and the guy sitting in the passenger seat.
Right.
See, things are changing.
Well, it was, that's what the system wanted. As I paint the picture from World War II, once World War II hit, they discovered that women go to work every day. So now we're going to hire the women, right? We're going to displace the men, and we need the men. The only way you come on into the service, right? If you're not going into service, you're going to prison, or you're going to
CC,
which I said 2 different incomes, right? But let's get to the real numbers, right? And David, tell me you don't see this. Our daughters read.
Yeah. What I think too is that kind of goes back to what's being modeled in front of those young men.
Exactly.
And my parents divorced when I was 14 years old, and my sister was 13, and my brother was 7. And I'm saying this for a reason. So by the time I was 14, I had seen my father cut the grass. He had showed me how to do that. I had seen my father take the garbage out. I had seen my father model certain behavior that would resonate with me as a man. However, my 7-year-old brother can't recall a lot of the things that I talk about in terms of those things being modeled. He's fine, but these are the types of deficits that we put ourselves as a people, generally speaking, when we're talking about having models before us. My father was, we were avid book readers. My father was my hero. And that was growing up in the 70s. And so, as it relates to the women being, girls being a little bit more progressive as it relates educationally, or even in some cases professionally, and sometimes it takes a while for the men to catch up, is because of what's being modeled in front of them. And unfortunately, it's unfortunate that that's the case. And so rather than, over in 4204, where I help work with Dabo, we go over to Noble School, and just the disrespect that the children get from their parents, the treatment that they get from their parents. Hopefully we can talk in person. I can share with you some more, more
all day,
more Kimberly type things. But get the hell out of my car. Go to school. The boy's trying to ask a question, and the boy comes in. The young man comes into school. He's angry, and if the teacher doesn't have the right mindset, they don't understand that his anger is misappropriated. He's not necessarily mad at you, but he's just coming from a different situation. So again, this all makes sense and ties into the suicidal ideation that some African American boys have when they feel like, going to prison is a rite of passage, or being shot is a badge of honor, or selling drugs just tired of being out, or my mother having several boyfriends or girlfriends coming in, boyfriends call them uncle, is just part of life. That's not normal.
Right.
But they think it is normal. And so they're like, I don't even give a care about what happens. And so it's with that attitude that they come to school. They're not necessarily concerned about learning. They're concerned about getting back out in the street where they're getting the love that we talked about earlier. Remember we talked about the social connections, things of that nature? If I can't get it at home, just the stories I can tell you of this same particular young man. We took the kids on the trip. We got back at 7 o'clock at night, and all the parents came, and he started walking. I'm like, man, where you going? I'm about to go home. Like, what you mean you about to walk home? It's dark, ain't nobody gonna get you. No, I'm straight, I'm good. Confident, ain't scared of nothing. So it's a different type of maturity, a different type of education, a different type of learning. And again, we got to shift that paradigm and start letting them know that, listen, this skill set that you have of being confident and being able to take care of yourself needs to transcend this particular mindset that you have right now, and understand that you can be an asset not only to yourself but to the community and one day to a family. And so instead of us pushing that person aside, saying that they have an attitude problem, they need an attitude adjustment, or they got anger issues, or we're trying to medicate them, we need to learn and find out what exactly it is. Because I wanted to introduce this other concept that I've been, because I always research on about suicide. And so there's a concept where this group of professors are saying that some African Americans, young people, they don't, their suicidal ideation is not normal, the normal thing, meaning that they don't have a mental problem or psychological problem or things like that, but they put themselves in situations that may, well, we say that, well, that's a suicide thing. They don't care. And so where they're not necessarily trying to kill themselves, they don't necessarily value their life, and so they put themselves in situations where they may die.
Yeah, suicidal decisions, right? Which is a part of what we're talking about in the Smash Suicide, the whole nine, right? You're not only are you suicidal, but you're making suicidal decisions, right? And these decisions, a lot of times, what's impacting a young man is, these are words we put on our sons that we have to change. We put the word, okay, you're a young king. That to me, that's pressure. My son don't hear that. I don't call my son no young king. Right? What you know about being a king? The people that's even saying, calling you a young king, what you know about being a king? From last time I checked, kings and queens sit on a throne, don't do nothing. So it, to me, in the process is, okay, you can make it metaphorically, okay, I'm a queen, so and so and so and so, but what comes with that? I'm a king, what comes with that? So I don't teach that to my son. I teach my son to be a leader, right? And that's, to me, that's more important. So young men here, you're now the king of the house. So by the time they 13, 14, why I got to listen to you? I'm doing grown man stuff. How many young men was put in the street by their families, right? That in association, I got friends and members in Good Fathers Only who can tell you at 9, 10, 11, what they was exposed to. And that exposure, right? Fortunately, a couple of them decided that their exposure would lead to them having family versus leading them to the grave. So decisions were made differently. But that's a rare case. You know, I tell them all the time, bro, you rare. You don't understand that everything you did was geared toward having a family, even helping his own dad out. I can't wait to get him on because his story is incredible. But in that process, what we're talking about, David and Dave, what we're talking about is, David, you the answer. To me, in this construct, the modeling, the importance of you, how many people get to see you interact with your family and understand what you're teaching. I was just at a shower yesterday, and I said to a friend of mine, I said, we got to get to the point to where when our nieces and our little girl cousins or whatever, that the young man, he got to come see what kind of males is in your life. That this is the type of male that you're modeling after, because if he doesn't see that and he doesn't know that you have family, and so all of that process, because you never know the impact that that's going to have on him. Like, man, you got all these men around here, dads and uncles and all of that. It could shift them. But in this process, we're not doing that because, again, what's the value of family? You can see it every day on a meme. Oh, family ain't shit. Family don't do shit. If family don't loan you no money, they ain't shit. Well, family can loan you some time, some encouragement, some knowledge, some wisdom. I ain't got to give you no money, but I can give you this wisdom that's worth more than the money.
That's right.
And the money is temporary, right? So that's how. What is the issue? Is Dave spoke on it and you spoke on it. The value system of the family is in transition, and because of that, right, the judgment is placed and the action. So in studying ACEs, we know that some of this stuff is genetically passed. So one of the things we did at an ACEs concert, if you thought about suicide, that marked your DNA. If you thought about suicide, it literally marked your DNA and it's transported. If you experienced trauma, it's in your DNA and it's passed on. In some cases, domestic violence, right? It's marked in your DNA that your system will draw. Many things is connected to our DNA. Is a very powerful thing that we're ignoring in procreating. Oh yeah, yeah. You know, the dad, he might be. We want to talk player, man. Throw your player card in the garbage. You're not a player. Just toss it. Just go ahead, throw it in the garbage, and come get some of this real manhood, right? And learn from each other, where you can grow and be responsible to your children, to your legacy, to your family, to your future, right? Where you can learn some skills and things like that. So, David, your information is very, very in depth, right? And so your sister and I've been through 3 of the QPRs.
Oh, okay. So you all right?
Yeah, yep. I've been through 3 of the QPRs. When we started Smash Suicide, I reached out to your sister. I asked your sister to be on the committee, right? And because of that very knowledge, and I'm saying this across the board, it is so important that we do more of those. And so I most definitely want to partner with you in doing more of those, right? Where we're bringing this information to the dads. I just had Kevin Fisher from NAMI on, and we were in Hype Magazine talking about our Smash Suicide campaign, because one of the things that you just said right here that was important was, how do you address or talk to the young person? And what you said was, when a young person tells you that they're suicidal, you said you don't dismiss that. You sit down and you have a conversation, right? Which is our engagement part. We don't engage young men. We do. This is why we've had so many thousands of kids come through what we're doing in over 36 years. I'm always engaging young men. Always. Hey, how you doing, brother? What's going on? What you thinking about? What you dreaming about? Where you trying to go?
Right.
Literally, right?
And Calvin,
go for it.
The thing that really gets me, and I know you called me over to talk about suicide, but as an African American man, you and Dave, you all know the pressure that we're faced with. And what I mean by the pressure is, if a person wants to be an asset to his community or an asset to himself, there's pressure to do right. Okay, because there's always an opportunity to do wrong or go the wrong way. And right. So every morning, I have to decide what type of man I'm going to be every morning to this day. Am I going to be a man of faith? Am I going to be trifling? Am I going to, react to my feelings? Am I going to let what bothers me? But every morning I have to decide, my perspective on the day. And I think these are the types of conversations that we need to have and engage in terms of interfacing with young people, is teaching them how to think, teaching them how to process information. And, I was at a fatherhood conference some years back, and the doctor was talking. He said, "What's the opposite of thinking?" And I asked him, I was listening to him, and he didn't say it wasn't instinct. It was another word I can't think of. But if you don't think, you're just going to respond without thinking. You're just going to do whatever comes to you. But if you learn how to process information and think before you respond, it calms you down. And there's a lot of things that go on in your mind. And so by actually sitting with young people and young men specifically, and showing them how this process works, it's amazing, because some of them, they'll respond like count to 10, before you respond, before you go off on a teacher, before you go off on your mother, or these types of things, or how to handle this type of pressure. This is what prepares them for life. And so I think we are some of the most resilient people, generally speaking, on the face of the earth, where we can face issues, overcome trauma, overcome obstacles, and still come out on top. Where some other cultures or some other races, they'll jump out the window. We know how to eat beans out the can, or we can eat Chateaubriand, whatever it is. But it comes from taking the trauma that we've experienced and transitioning that to something that's positive. But we need to have methods and strategic approaches and support to show us how to deal with that trauma. We have to show people that there's a choice that you make. And so my point was the pressure. And then the other point I wanted to talk about was balance. If I call my son a king, or if I call my son a mighty man of God, or whatever it is, that's to offset and tell him what he has the potential of being. He may not be walking in his kingship at this particular time. You know the Bible about David. David was anointed when he was walking in dung and all that stuff, but he had not necessarily gotten to his kingship, but he was anointed as the king of Israel. And so by pouring things and giving balance to them, we can help shape them. Now, when we do mess up, and I agree with that one more time, 100%, is by telling the child that they're much more than what they are. That's not good, because first of all, you're lying to them, and then two, you reward them for behavior that they shouldn't have. I mean, this society that we're living in now is crazy. My daughter and my granddaughter, and this is, I'm just being transparent. I had to just, I love my baby and all that stuff, but the way they think in terms of all these shoes and clothes and all this stuff, I don't get it, because she wasn't raised like that. But again, that's their child. I had to be released from that. Another point too is you talked about that you have therapists that the young people can go see. That's another thing that our community has not totally embraced. It was always something taboo for us to go see a therapist. We can go see the preacher, we can go see the pastor, we can go see the imam, we can go to the mosque and all that stuff. But we talked about getting therapy. He's like, no, black folks don't do that. That's some white people stuff. And that's not true. Therapy has helped people overcome some of the trauma that we talked about. You talked about fathers being in the home. I know women personally who suffer from abandonment issues and can't stay in relationships because they haven't gotten therapy or haven't gotten over the fact that their father left them or either was never there. And so they can't, when a good man comes, they always, assuming things and things of that nature. So therapy is a key component to trying to sustain a person and get them in the right frame of mind. And two, all these things curb and can help prevent suicidal thoughts. And people don't understand. I mean, you could lose your job. Your wife could leave you. A good friend could pass away. Anything can happen that could cause a person to contemplate suicide. And the thing is, you don't really know about this until you find yourself in that situation. Like if I ended my kids, they'll be straight. They'll be I'm worth more dead than I am alive. All kind of crazy stuff people come up with. But you never know until you're in a situation. So I just want to say balance is important. The pressure that we have as African American men, and then two, therapy is a significant part. And then having these conversations, making it easy for me to interface with you about how you're doing. And this is the last story that I'm gonna give. My son is 27 now, and about 10 years ago, he was up at Michigan State, and he called me talking about he was having suicidal dreams and stuff like that. And so again, I hadn't been into this at all, Calvin. I had nothing. I was like, what you talking about? What's wrong with you? You better get yourself together. I said, where are you? So I went and got him, right? And I took him to out to Oakland County, where to have him evaluated. Right. He was asking, where we going? I was like, let's roll. We just about to go. And I took him there because I wasn't necessarily taking him there because I thought something was wrong with him. I took him there because I was like, don't play with me. This is what we're gonna do. However, when we got there, the brother broke down and was sharing some things with the counselor and everything. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But it taught me something. It taught me that what I stated earlier is that we can't take these things for granted and assume that they're just playing or whatever. He needed to get some stuff off his chest. But I'm so busy telling him, N-word, get yourself together. We don't get down like that. You just do. Man, I have apologized to all three of my children all the time about the way that I brought them up, because that's the way I was brought up. You're going to do it. This is what you're going to do, you know. And so we got to make sure that we pay attention, that we're sensitive, and that we model certain behaviors. And it's okay to be transparent, not about everything in terms of an adult, but, this is how our young men are going to learn to be men. That's what we have to do. And then, too, when they face pressure, they'll remember the conversation they had with Calvin. They remember the conversation they had with David. They remember the conversation they had with their father or an uncle who was there and said, listen, all you got to do is sit down, focus, center yourself. Suicide is a permanent decision to a temporary problem. You're not the first person to go through whatever it is you're going through. You ain't going to be the last one. And if you are the first person, you're a pioneer. You're going to overcome it. We're going to give you the tools and resources that you need, link you up with whatever it is that you need in order to get this help. And, you may fail. You may not even, overcome this first time, but you're going to be there to pick you back up until you overcome this particular thing. And I think that helps a person realize, listen, I can do it. I'm not by myself. We just want to offer a person hope at whatever pace, short of line and writing checks we can't cash. We want to make sure the person understands that they have a life to live. They're not the only person to go through what they're going through, and that they can carry on.
Hey, David, where did you go to high school?
Detroit Redford.
And what year did you come out?
1989.
And you played basketball.
I sure did.
And you played AAU.
No, I ain't playing AAU. They had AAU back then.
Pal.
Yep.
So in '89, when you came out, you hooped against Steve Hall.
Steve played the Cavs. Yep.
Right. And
Steve Smith played the Persian. He left 2 years. He came in '87.
Yeah, Redford, all them boys.
Yes, sir.
You know how I know? You know how I know? Because I was the youngest varsity basketball coach at 23. I was around basketball at 20 years old, teaching guys. Dwayne Stevens and my brother Cornell were the first 2 cats I put in college.
Dwayne Stevens from Ferndale?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's my first cousin.
Okay.
Right, and so, seeing you, very familiar. I see a lot of, I'm good at faces, just not names.
So you from Ferndale, Rollo Township? That you over there?
Yes, sir.
Calvin, man. Okay.
Yeah, the man boys. It's a bunch.
Yeah, I know. And I know we're talking about Rollo Township. My boy's dad used to be the chief of police over there. Bert. Yeah. Me and Bert, we went to Morris Brown together.
Yeah, old Bert. Bert passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah, man. I know we talking on the show, man. I don't even want to talk about it, man.
That was
killed. And man, he had his PhD. Bert was doing the thing, man.
Yeah. But this comes back to what we were talking about, you and I, and in the scenario, our children need their fathers to be healthy and to take care of themselves so they can continue that wisdom that they need throughout the life. Fatherhood is forever. It doesn't end just because you had a baby today and the baby turned 18. It doesn't end there. That your child is always going to need.
Come back and talk about that too, because I'm a diabetic and I've been going through some stuff, bruh. We can talk about that health thing. That's a whole nother class we're trying to get on.
Oh yeah. I Dave is in here. He's knee deep in the physical health and got degrees in it, right? And the one thing that I learned that shook me, because I'm a big fella, but no high blood pressure, no high cholesterol, no diabetes, none of that, because that diet. I didn't keep the same diet.
Yeah.
I didn't keep the same diet. I don't have to have salt. I don't have to put hot sauce on everything. I don't eat soul food. Like, I'm not going to the soul food restaurant just to have soul food. I'm not eating it, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that, growing up, when I watched my mom go through the diabetes and lose limbs and eyesight and toes, and I just kept evaluating her diet. We was trying to get her to change. And, just watching that, like some of my brothers don't even eat ice cream because of that. You know what I mean? And like, it's not really sweets and cakes and all that. That's nothing that I'm really interested in like that.
And so I wanted to connect this with that. So even just the whole thing you just said. You just said 1989. I came out of high school. I was an athlete. Went to Morris Brown. Played college. I played some semi-pro ball and some played against Kenny Anderson. Played against Dennis Scott. All of them. I was down in Atlanta. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Doing all this. You living your life. You come back home. You hoop a little bit. You're in shape. You good. And then you hit this wall where you're not able to do the things that you wanted to do. Your health starts getting to you and things like that. Yeah. Calvin, Dave, if your mind is not right, that'll jack you up, brother.
Yes, sir.
That will jack you up.
Yes, sir.
It moves beyond just talking about what you used to do and all that stuff. It's like, I'm not the man. I'm not the man that I used to be. I'm not this. I'm not that. And if your mind is not right, you'll be doing you would have some crazy thoughts and think about doing some crazy things. And so, again, if we don't wrap our arms or wrap our arms around our young people to build their minds up. And I say build them up, I'm not talking about with false celebratorial things, that name, but
Right.
some essential foundational things to make sure that they can process information, they can think, and when they see things that might be negative or might feel like it's overwhelming, that they calm themselves and they don't give in to the moment. They don't respond just by reacting, but they have a system of how to respond to certain things. I'm talking about when it comes to domestic violence, and if a girl's getting on their nerves or whatever, not trying to put their hands on them. Because what I find is a lot when I talk to gentlemen who experience that, it's because it's misappropriated anger. It's because they mad at something else happened.
Yes.
Well,
And
that's
it's
why
a trigger.
that's why I say the problem's not the problem.
If you used to being a man and doing all that stuff, that stuff is crazy, bro.
Yeah. We gonna kick it, brother. We are going to kick it. Right, you got me locked in. I got you locked in.
Yes, sir.
Brother David. We, Good Fathers Only. Look us up. That's what we're about. Fatherhood, networking together.
I'm trying to figure out how I can get down all the information on the website.
Yeah, you can hit, once you go to EMIY, you click initiatives, click that thegoodfathersonly.com and scroll down. The application is there, the whole nine, and get involved. We're looking for doers to get involved. We're getting ready to kick off a national holiday this month on July 16th, right? And we're putting together the flyer, the whole nine, but we're kicking off a national holiday for fathers where we begin to continue to take the lead and teach and show love. We can't sit back and wait on people to love us. We got to love them to show them what love looks like. So
that's how you lead. Yeah,
that's how you lead, bro.
Are you still coaching now, Calvin?
No, just mentoring, right? We do a lot of mentoring, right?
Okay, you're not doing any AAU or nothing like that?
Nope, I miss it. Believe me.
How long have you been out of the game?
I've been away from the game for quite a few years. When I started,
okay, because I've been repping for the last 10 or 15 years too, so I might have seen you.
Yep, the last, Malik Carr's my nephew, right? We keep, athletes in my family, and just since I started this movement, we just been shaping. I got a young man up in Pontiac I work with. He was a sophomore on OAA first team. I always keep my hands on at least one or two, but once we get this empowerment center built, we're gonna turn out tons and tons of leaders of males across the board and across the country. We got a 10-city plan and we're moving. But I say to you, man, I appreciate it. I thank your sister for really reconnecting us and making this possible that we can have this conversation, because we have to continue the conversation in order to raise the volume on the awareness. Brother Dave, you got 1 minute and then I'm gonna jump on and close. But Dave, thank you. I appreciate everything.
I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yes, sir. And
listen,
I'll be texting you.
Anytime you want a QPR presentation, it's no charge. Just call me and I set it up because I work midnights, so I'm free.
Okay, I got
so
you.
Anytime for me, all you need is like 5 or 6 people. I'll come do it. I'll come do it for 3.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
All right. I appreciate you, man. Talk to you.
No problem, sir. Y'all.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just thank him for what he's doing, because he's out here being a difference and make a difference, So that's the main thing, bringing that awareness, bringing some insight. And again, as he was talking, the bigger click here is the modeling. The more we keep presenting, just basic things of watching a man cut grass, even though that's not a quote-unquote role of a man, but it's something that gives the vision of being accountable, responsible. These kind of activities, I've kind of taken away that concept of that's your role, right. Because it's like saying, well, it's a woman's role to cook. No, it's your role to cook too. Yeah. It's a responsibility and a duty.
Right.
But anyway, the bigger thing is, again, setting those models up so young people have something to emulate in a positive way, and that's the start of what David is doing. What we're doing is just continue to put something before them, our young people, male particularly in this arena, that they can say, hey, that's not so bad to be. The media is bombarding with models every day. Superfly, being reincarnated, right? We bring back a guy from the 70s to now to the 21st century, a lifestyle that's inappropriate. You know what I mean? Because we think that's the model, and it ain't the model.
Because it's
the
money.
illusion.
Yes.
That's right.
If you can, we're getting ready to close. We usually close with the put your family first. And so today was about dads and kids and males and suicide. And one of the things that I really want us to take away from what we do on this podcast is we're not playing, we're sharing solutions. We're sharing solutions in love. We're sharing solutions in life. We're sharing solutions for suicide. All the work that we do for prevention, it's working. And I say that because at some point, right, all the practitioners and the people all over the world are going to begin to see that family has to be reinvented in a way that we never come back to what we're looking at today. Mm-hmm. I may not get to see it on my journey, but we're going to plant a hell of a lot of seeds for it to be known that family together, not divided, supportive, caring, providing, loving, guiding, teaching, protecting, right? Caring for, hugging. Some of these kids don't even get a hug.
That's right.
I think about little David. Little David texts, how you doing? I can't wait till the next session of the mentoring program. I love you. Just that. He doesn't realize that all of those little messages, he's outperforming tons and tons of people who just don't do that. That's right. Leadership in a 9-year-old boy.
That's right. That's right.
Here he is, 9, 10 years old, understand exactly what he's doing. So with that being said, I thank you for today. My name is Kelvin Mann. I'm the president and founder of Encourage Me. I'm Young and Good Fathers Only. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young.